Hi, I'm Mark Matheson, the CEO of ANDUANDU Inc., a future global society. I'm supposed to stay neutral when it comes to politics, but President Donald Trump and President Putin have made this impossible. President Trump and President Putin are a clear and present danger, an exponential threat to democracy, the world order, and what is just and fair. President Trump, President Putin, and President Xi Jinping would like nothing better than to sit down together and discuss how they would carve out their share of the world. I find it very hard to call President Trump a president because of what he has said and done in the past, what he and one of his dons, Elon Musk, are doing now, and what he and Musk's other dons will do in the future, and because he often lies. President Trump once said to James Comey, "I need loyalty. I expect loyalty." The demand reminded Comey of a Cosa Nostra induction ceremony with Trump in the role of the mafia family boss. I believe that President Trump's interactions with Putin, the Russians, and their mafia has and will play a significant role in his past, present, and future. In 1918, author Craig Unger wrote a book called House of Trump, House of Putin, the untold story of Donald Trump and the Russian mafia. Much of the speech is derived from half this book and the Canadian Broadcast Corporation CBC original program called Putin's Journey, which aired on January 17th, 2025. This documentary should be shared around the world, even to Fox News, and Craig Unger's book read around the world. So there's no doubt how bad Putin is and how unpalatable it is for President Trump to be so close to Putin and siding with such a horrible man. President Vladimir Zelensky is 3 times the man of President Putin and President Trump, who I believe could be called fork-tongued if Native Americans were to nickname him. I believe there are 3 reasons why President Trump is siding with Putin and the Russians. The first being that President Trump is suffering from dementia or Alzheimer's, and he can't recall things like who started the war. How ruthless Putin has been to any opposition, with many being killed and poisoned and put in jail, civilians being gassed in Syria, numerous atrocities against Ukraine, and much more. We know it often appears that way. He frequently contradicts himself. Second, as already mentioned, to carve the world up with leaders he admires and wants to emulate. Leaders who share the same ambitions. The reason I believe has been hanging over President Trump's head fits the most is what author Craig Unger has written on page 127. In Trump, the Russians need to have found the perfect mark. Page 128, according to Oleg Kulagin, Trump likely had his first taste of sexual conflict in 1987. There's a chapter called Honey Trap. From that point on, it appears that Putin was able to move in the way he wanted. Almost immediately after Trump arrived back from Moscow in 1987, Trump concerned himself with topics in print and verbally that had a pro-Russian twist. His first foray into foreign policy called for a dismantling of the post-war Western alliance, and it was even suggested that Donald Trump in the 90s was pressured to run for president by the Russians. Much earlier, Russian Prosecutor General Yuri Skuratov, who would have convicted Boris Yeltsin of numerous crimes, was set up by Putin. Putin becomes president and drops the charges against President Yeltsin. Not too long ago, President Trump felt it was okay to exclude President Volodymyr Zelensky from peace talks with Russia, the aggressor, and the United States. President Trump has been well on his way in public side with Putin. It is of zero surprise to me, and now it should be no surprise to you, that the day after the meeting in Saudi Arabia, he was absurd lying about Ukraine starting the war. And the following day, he calls President Zelensky a dictator. We feel bad for President Volodymyr Zelensky, who must deal with men like President Trump and President Putin. In Craig Unger's book, a quote on page 124 writes, "Early on, Trump came to the conclusion that it is better to do business with crooks than honest people." On page 265-279, there's a chapter called Trump's 59 Russian Connections. Such authenticity I've never seen before. The book is footnotes so much. President Trump admires his buddies, who are returning favors and expecting more. I have heard that 25% of the debt during President Biden's term was due to tax breaks that President Trump had given in his first term. United States founding fathers would turn over in the graves if the American people lack the will to organize to stop this autocratic regime from steering the country in a direction that is contrary to what the American Constitution stands for. Willing to let European allies down, kind of like France who gave the Statue of Liberty, who like Britain helped fight your battles in the Middle East, siding with an autocratic regime that makes the 1700s British look like choir boys, doing and saying many things that please Putin, like UN Vice President Vance burying President Zelensky, ruining America's image around the world, threatening country sovereignty, imposing foresight tariffs on your best friend Canada and Mexico, and making thousands of Americans homeless. Our Earth needs all Americans like Warren Buffett, Mitt Romney, Bruce Springsteen, and others to help ensure that the will of the people prevails and to show Americans and our allies that the United States truly cares for democracy and their future. There should be a referendum with questions that address American fears and concerns that ends with results that are America's best interests. A referendum should be allowed, and its 4 or 5 questions must be derived from the issues that continue to challenge the status quo. In a democracy, the government is supposed to represent the people. What is going on now is so wrong and needs to stop. Even if it results in the lower ranks challenging their leaders, we can only hope that you're now inspired to act.